We got a big-time show coming around the corner, but before we get into it, guys, help us reach 4,000 subscribers here on the Bulls Report. We only need 540 of you guys to hit that subscribe button to reach that milestone. So if this is your first time coming across the channel, make sure you lock us in as your go-to Chicago Bulls YouTube channel. Any news or rumors that come out around your team, I want to be your go-to face that you see every single time we talk about the Chicago Bulls here. So lock us in, hit that subscribe button, and let's get into today's show. We got a big-time show coming up for you guys where we are going to be talking about the Bulls being granted Lonzo Ball's disabled player exception. We're also going to be talking about 3 names that I think the Bulls could possibly sign using that exception, and then also just kind of diving into the, the nits and grits of the whole deal with the Bulls obviously getting granted this, disabled player exception. And then also on the second half of today's show, we're going to be talking about Zach LaVine. Actually, Zach LaVine is talking about the Zach LaVine trade rumor. So he had a very interesting quote just overall about his time in Chicago. So I'll be sharing you guys that at the later half of today's video. But this is the news of today is the Bulls have been granted a $10.2 million disabled player exception for the season-ending loss of Lonzo Ball. Obviously, we know the Lonzo Ball injury news that he was most likely going to miss the entire next season, which pretty much makes it 2.5 years. 2.5 years since we last seen Lonzo Ball play basketball, and this is the end of the era. Lonzo's time in Chicago, it was fantastic that for those 35 games he played in that 2021-2022 season. I mean, he was great, and the Bulls were sitting at a top of the Eastern Conference before he got hurt. And the number one thing I love about that season is it wasn't what just Lonzo was doing on the court for himself. It's what he was doing for his teammates. Like Zach LaVine was averaging 25 a night on 50-40 splits, and DeMar DeRozan was averaging 28 points per game on really solid efficiency as well. But his numbers that year, he was fantastic, man. He was really starting to look like one of the better point guards in the NBA. At 13 a night, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. And again, it's that efficiency that impressed me so much. Lonzo coming out of college had that really janky shooting motion, and a lot of people questioned if he was going to be able to shoot that three-point ball at a high clip. And he did that for that half a season with the Chicago Bulls, shooting it at 42.3%. And why it hurts, because just, player to player here, like just man to man with Lonzo Ball, why this bothers me so much is because, he was scrutinized a ton coming out of the college heading into the draft. A lot of that was because of his dad, LeVar. But again, he was starting to look like one of the best pure point guards in the NBA. And his combination of playmaking, defending, and shooting was absolutely elite. Like that 6'6" frame he had and a true ability to guard the point guard, shooting guard, and small forward at a very, very high level. That's why the Bulls were so effective during that half season, because they were able to run Lonzo, Alex Caruso, and really have strong point of attack defenders with also that combination of scoring with DeMar and LaVine. The Bulls really had something truly special going there, and obviously once we saw he went down, the whole season ended. Like, even though Lonzo wasn't the first or second best player on that team, I could really make an argument he was the most important player on that team just because of what he brought on both sides of the floor. But guys, I want the comment section flooded on today's video. Show Lonzo Ball some love. Yes, the Bulls, I guess it's a positive news story that they were granted that disabled player exception, but just my heart goes out to Lonzo because we may never see him play in a Bulls uniform, or let alone just play in the NBA again. So spam the comments with Zoe. Show him some support. Show him some love. I want to see thousands of Zoe in the comments section, and get down there and show our former point guard some love. But now let's talk about it. 3 players the Bulls can sign in this upcoming free agency period. And I will want to make this note with the disabled player exception here. The Bulls can only use $8.3 million of it. Obviously, they were granted $10.2 million to be able to spend, and they could use that full $10.2 if it's in season closer to the trade deadline. But if they want to use this during free agency, they can only use $8.3, or else because they were hit that second apron where they wouldn't be able to use it. So they really only have $8.3 of able to use in this upcoming year. But I got 3 names that I think the Bulls could potentially sign using this disabled player exception. The first name is probably one of my favorites out there, and that's P.J. Washington, the two-way 4 for the Charlotte Hornets, and he was great this past season. Charlotte had a lot of sneaky bucket getters on that team this past year, even though they weren't the most successful in terms of wins. They had a lot of good players, have a lot of solid seasons. I mean, 15 a night and, bringing that two-way ability, almost a block and steal per night as well. And I think this is what I think he would be in an ideal fit for what the Bulls need. Obviously the Bulls, I think they got the scoring with LaVine and DeRozan. And obviously Vooch is an incredible back-to-the-basket big. But in terms of just having a strong four in that that front court need for the Bulls, I think he answers that question. I mean, you can see his frame on your screen right now. He's a strong four. He's got really solid size, really big shoulders. He's able to guard really, really well, and he's got that defensive versatility, which I like. So I think he would be an ideal fit for the Chicago Bulls. I do believe, however, I don't know if he would be a starter for the Bulls if they brought him in. I do think still Patrick Williams would get that nod. But if you were able to roll out Caruso and P.J. Washington off the bench, mix it up with a Kobe White, I think it would be fantastic. I think it would also take the Bulls up another level defensively as well. Second name on this list is another Charlotte Hornet, Kelly Oubre Jr. Oh, man, this is an interesting one just because, Oubre, in terms of scoring the basketball, he has been one of the best volume scorers in the NBA. And I do want to put some emphasis on that. He is a volume scorer. He will put up a lot of points, but it won't be the most efficient. And I think this past season for Charlotte, his highest scoring output of his NBA career sitting at 20 points a game. And you may be saying, 20 points a night, fantastic. But you take a look down that line, 43% from the field and only 31.9% from deep. And that's why I have my questions on Oubre. Because you look at the numbers, they're great. 20 a night, he can really put the ball in the bucket. But it's always about Oubre. What does he contribute to winning? He's a tremendous basketball player. If you saw him on the park or you saw him at like an open gym run, he would be blown away by his just overall skill set. I mean, he's 6'8" and can score from all three levels and is a really freaky athlete. But it's what he contributes to winning, and it's just his overall effort and intensity on the defensive side of the floor. That's why I do have my questions on Kelly Oubre. Third name on this list, and I know a lot of you guys are a big fan of his game, is Christian Wood. And I've been seeing a lot of talk on Twitter, especially on Bulls Twitter specifically, about the Bulls potentially nabbing Wood for this DPE that they were granted. But again, same thing with Wood. From a scoring perspective, he's fantastic, and he's actually incredibly efficient for a big man in the NBA. I mean, look at these points per game over the last 4 seasons here. I mean, he's been great, man. I mean, especially that 2020-2021 season at 21 a night and 10 rebounds, shooting 51.4% from the field and damn near 38% from deep. He's a true three-level scorer from three, midi, getting to the rim, whatever it may be. He can do it offensively. But what's the deal with him? Why is he still signed? Why aren't teams taking a chance on Christian Wood? Well, here it is. He's played on 7 teams in 7 seasons. And if you're a true scorer in the NBA and you can't really, carve yourself out a role for a franchise and teams are just kind of passing you around, I don't know. It just raises a red flag for me. And obviously defensively, we've seen it. He doesn't really care too much for the defensive side of the floor. He isn't really that physical of a basketball player. He's more of a finesse play style in his game. And then also the problems in the locker room. Our guys here who are big fans of the Mavs here at Chat Sports, they always question, what he really brings, in a locker room, if he's more of a me guy in comparison to a we guy. And it also speaks to this last point. He's not the most coachable player. we heard about the beef between him and Kidd this past year with Dallas playing for the Mavericks, and we obviously know that Christian Wood, if you're a guy that's trouble in the locker room and doesn't play too much defense, I'm sure your coaches aren't going to be the biggest fan of you. So I'm probably out on Christian Wood, and over the 3 players we named, I'd probably go P.J. Washington as my number 1 choice. But I ask you guys, who do you guys want the Bulls to sign with that disabled player exception that they were granted for Lonzo Ball? Let me know. Get your thoughts down in the comments section, and let me know, who do you want the Bulls to sign? Next, coming up here on today's edition of the Bulls Report, we're going to be hearing about what Zach LaVine had to say about his own trade rumors. He had an interesting quote coming just around the corner here. But guys, we got a great deal going on. And if you head to chatsports.com/Bulls combo, you can get this 2 t-shirt combo for $20 off right now. It's only going to be available for a limited time and just for you diehard Bulls fans. So make sure you head to chatsports.com/Bulls combo. I'll make sure to put the link for that in the comments section and description of today's show. But this is what Zach LaVine had to say about his name being tossed around in the recent NBA trade rumors, and I thought it was incredibly interesting. He showed some love for Chicago. He said, "I always rep my city. whichever team I'm playing for to the best. And Chicago's loved me and called me one of their own since I've been there. I don't see anything happening anytime soon, but if it does, Chicago always has my love. And I thought that was a little interesting, especially the part where it says, but if it does, because maybe LaVine's heard the noise. He's heard the smoke about him, being traded to maybe the Knicks or being involved in a Portland Trailblazers trade, or even we've heard the Philadelphia 76ers could be interested in the all-star guard for the Chicago Bulls. But overall, I'm all in on LaVine. Like, I am a huge fan of his game, and I think he's became one of the more underrated players in the NBA, especially on the offensive side of the floor. His advanced shooting numbers, fantastic. And they honestly blow me away every time I look at them. Catch and shoot ability, 41.6%, extremely solid. The pull-up three-point percentage, though, that 34.2%, we've seen it countless times for the Bulls this past season. Coming off that pick and roll, he kind of jumps into it, sets his feet, and just rises up over the defenders. He's got a really high release point because he jumps a lot on his jump shot, and he shoots it at the top of his head, which makes it incredibly hard to challenge. And even if he has a hand in his face, all he's seeing is back rim. And he's one of the best guards in the NBA at getting to the rim at 62.7%. from less than 10 feet this year for the Chicago Bulls. Overall, LaVine, true definition of a three-level scorer. Guys like him, Donovan Mitchell, and Bradley Beal, truly guys that, get it done from all three levels at the highest level in the NBA. But let me know, would you guys, or should the Bulls trade Zach LaVine? Whether you think it's, right now before the season starts or maybe before the trade deadline if the Bulls are struggling a little bit. Give me a T for trade or a P for pass down in the comment section. As always, guys, you guys can hit me up on Twitter. I'm trying to up my Twitter game a little bit. So if you want more Chicago Bulls content on your Twitter feed, I'm going to be tweeting about them all leading up to when the season starts in October. Give me a follow at Pat Siepman. I'm going to be able to, I will put that link in the comment section and the description of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next time. Go Bulls.